Okay, now we're going into chapter 6 of 7. So this is really the last really long chapter in this textbook, and it's entitled Second Language Learning in the Classroom. So now it's kind of nice because we're going to see what these theories look like in the classroom with actual students, actual case studies, and also their effectiveness, trying to measure if the students learned the language or not with different tests, kind of before and after tests. And there's two types of before and after tests. You've got the linguistic tests and then the communicative type tests. So we can measure sort of how the student learns the grammar or the language, and then also see how they do with like a conversation or maybe a writing. Again, to come up with whether these are, whether the methods are effective or not. And there's 6 proposals from this book, or you could say maybe in a way 6 methods or even 6 approaches, but I would not really say 6 theories. In this situation we're more specific into what we're calling proposals. And a lot of our case studies, a lot of them in Canada, because the authors are from Canada and doing a lot of French, English type of research, and with kids in the public schools too, the younger kids. And sometimes we have like a qualitative type of measurement, which you can actually get numbers and points and scores on tests, and then sometimes it's just qualitative, what I consider just it can't really be measured with a number, but you just see that it's effective. You see that the students seem to be enjoying it and benefiting from it, and the lesson seems to be meeting your goal that you set out to have the students, learn language and practice language as well. And the first proposal is called Get It Right from the Beginning, which goes along with very kind of structure-based teaching, like a grammar translation method, where you're going to initially set out, all the rules of the language and all the examples, and then go on to practice them. And the audiolingual method is also considered a get it right from the beginning proposal, because it starts off with presenting to the students the model of the correct language, and then having them practice it in that way. And a term we haven't really used is classical method, which it's like the grammar translation method, but it describes how people used to study Latin or Greek, like an ancient language, just as an intellectual pursuit in college or high school. And it was just studying the grammar of a language, reading the great works of literature and philosophy from those ancient languages, and just studying language as more of an academic type of pursuit, but not conversational language. In fact, the languages are usually dead languages at this point, and you're not going to go talk with someone, in Latin, but it's more just to learn how the grammar works, some vocabulary. In the case of Latin, vocabulary that might be in English as well, or the roots of a lot of English words would be from Latin, so it could help you there, or it could help you learn Spanish or Italian or French and other Romance type languages. But mainly just studying language as a subject, like linguistics, and legitimate, academic field in itself. And filling in the blanks, and sometimes the language that you use to practice grammar is not really language that has much meaning. The example in the book was, I thought it was kind of funny when the student says, I have a dog, or I have 2 dogs, and they're saying that, but they don't really have a dog. They're just practicing the language, and sometimes, even thinking about something else. Kind of reminds me of when the students learn, like, this is a pencil, these are pencils. It reminds me that, but that's not a sentence that anyone will actually use when they go to another country. They'll, rarely would ever say, like, this is a pencil, but it's just for grammar practice. The adults like setting structure, however, and they feel that that's going to help them. A lot of adults, a lot of times they're real motivated too, so they want to study the grammar but in the end we feel like it fails in terms of like fluency, being able to use the language outside of the classroom, with some exceptions. A focus there on accuracy over fluency. The study 15, where it says grammar plus communicative practice, is an interesting idea, an interesting activity, where you're going to have a grammar lesson and you're going to have a communicative activity after that. So you could have audiolingual method, and then you could move into pair work or group work or genuine communication, a little bit more free or spontaneous, as they say, language use. Or they have an example in the book I thought was interesting, where some students, in addition to studying the audiolingual method, they would study maybe the culture of that country, like their music and their food and their lifestyle. And that is supposed to benefit foreign language study when you know the culture. And all of those things kind of supplementing the basic core of the structure, studying the structure of the language. And later, or throughout this book, they seem to bring up this idea of balance, kind of balancing form-focused instruction with communicative practice. And yes, there is a balance, but I think the question is not whether there is a balance, but the question is, what is the balance? What is the correct proportion of work? And because I think it's obvious that there is going to be a balance of these two areas. So that'll come up, quite a bit in this chapter.